And here we are with the Detroit Lions news, and we have our co-host. It's just myself, Darcy Maville, the real deal Maville.
He keeps playing like that and forcing all these turnovers. I think he could maybe get his name in the conversation for defensive rookie of the year. I don't think that's crazy to say.
Joseph's really been great. 10 tackles, 2 interceptions.
At the end of the day, they escaped with a win, and you got to be happy about that.
Detroit Lions, the victory yesterday over Chicago.
You got to minimize the big plays, and I think we did that today.
And here we are again. Merry Christmas. Happy Christmas Eve. Sorry. Let's start again. Hi, I'm Coach Darcy Maville, and we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions loss to the Panthers today. We have Will Rock, our co-host. We have Sam, and we have Ben. Let's go around and introduce ourselves.
Hey, welcome back, all you Lions fans. Thanks for joining us today on the 8th edition of the Lions Detroit News. So my name is Will Rock. I'm new to the podcasting live cast here with Darcy, and we have our other co-hosts today, Sam and Ben. And Sam, will go to you next.
Yeah, I'm Sam Goodman, co-host with Ben of the Forward Down the Field podcast, also a writer for gridironheroics.com, covering the Lions and some Arizona State football as well. Just a really disappointing afternoon, but hey, happy holidays to everyone at home.
Yeah, I mean, Sam covered it perfectly. I'm Ben. I'm the other co-host for the Forward Down the Field podcast, and we already did our little live reaction episode right after the game. Man, it was tough. Not necessarily looking forward to saying all that same stuff again, but you know what? It's got to happen because people need to hear what's going on with the Detroit Lions.
So, Sam, you did a show, what was it, on yesterday, I think, and talk about it for a little bit here.
Yeah, so we put out a preview every Friday of the upcoming game and give a lot of insight into it. And, this game, you got 3 games left in the season. Everyone's talking playoffs, and I thought to myself, man, this is a trap game for the Detroit Lions, right? Like, they've got such a hot streak going on. There's so much positive momentum, national media attention. And the Panthers, they had to win this game to keep their season alive. And they were going to play a tough game. They have a surging run game, one that we experienced firsthand today. And I just did not feel comfortable fully investing all of my interest and attention into the Lions for this game, and I thought, man, the Panthers, they have a good matchup against us, and yeah, I said trap game, and look how it turned out.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sam, for that insight. And, I was thinking the same thing yesterday. Ben, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, I mean, Sam said it perfectly, and you could tell like right away when this game started. Like from the first play, you're like, okay, it's going to be like that. And obviously, the first drive, they go down and easily score a touchdown. I think they had a 7-play drive, all rushes to start the game, and then they ended up scoring a touchdown out of it. So it was an apparent problem from the very beginning that we couldn't stop their run, and you just knew it was going to be one of those games where nothing was going to come easy, and we were going to have to dig ourselves out of a hole because we couldn't do it. It just kind of seemed like the defense never got off the bus, and they didn't really step up to the challenge going into the game, and they never really changed any of that. It kind of felt like more of a defense from the first few weeks of the season, unfortunately. I thought we were over that, but apparently not.
Yeah, so they ran down the field, what was it, like 4 or 5 plays, all big chunk running plays, and they were just dominating. They were getting to our second level. Chuba Hubbard was dominating us. They're getting past to Will. They're getting past to Sam. And then we came back down the field and put a nice drive up together. And then we stopped them. And we started in the second quarter. We drove down the field. And all of a sudden, Jared Goff and Frank Ragnow had a fumble. So that's the most common fumble as a coach, the center to quarterback exchange. It happens, but then again, they ran down the field and just dominated us. They beat us in the trenches. They beat us at our own game. The final score is usually how we play these other teams. Take it away, Will.
Yeah, absolutely, Darcy. The most disappointing thing of today was that stat that you see on the screen. There's 320 yards on the ground. The Lions are the ones, as Darcy alluded, we're the ones that are usually running the ball down your throat, and we're keeping the ball away from the other team by managing the clock as well. And when you saw Hubbard come out and he chunks one for 30, 33 yards, then he does it again and again and then again, it kind of made you stop and think, what's happening today? And did the Lions not expect in a cold game that they were going to push the ball and run the ball as much as they could? It's cold. The ball's flat. They're going to try not to throw it a whole lot. And we should have expected it. And I don't understand why the Lions didn't. So we'll go to you, Sam. What do you think happened today with that Lions defense? Why were they letting everything run up through the middle?
Honestly, to me, it feels a lot like what Coach Campbell said in his post-game presser, which is the Lions showed up and they were not mentally, physically prepared for this game. It was just a lack of, preparedness, a lack of, honestly, commitment. I talked to a lot of people who said this really does show the lack of personnel that the Lions have. But, to an extent that's true, but the Panthers aren't like a heavy favorite to win much of anything in the NFL right now. They're a team that lacks a lot of personnel on the offensive side of the ball. Their line is not particularly good. They're just scheming quite literally better than us right now, and they played like their season was on the line, which it was, and the Lions simply came out flat and couldn't recover. It was a lack of effort.
Yeah, we kind of saw, what normally happens for the Lions defense is they're able to get that edge rush and they're able to get the pressure on the quarterback. And today, not only was that missing, but we had nobody in the middle. Anzalone, Rodriguez, nobody was covering the middle to stop, who was coming through. And to your point, Sam, the Panthers line is just not that good. Why couldn't we manhandle them like we have the last 7 weeks where we've been able to get the pressure on the quarterback and stuff the run? Just 2 weeks ago, we held, who was it? The Giants, was it 22 yards for the entire game, or the Vikings? So go ahead, Ben, take it away. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think for a long time in the season, it was very apparent that our linebackers were our biggest weak spot of the team. I think everyone can pretty much unanimously agree with that. And then for about a month straight, Rodriguez and Anzalone played really, really good. So we started to kind of turn things around and stopping the run game, like you said, like holding the Vikings to 22 yards on the ground. Now you kind of look at the game as a whole and you're okay, Anzalone didn't really do much. Rodriguez didn't really do much. And I think what made things even worse was the fact that Deshaun Elliott wasn't going to be playing in this game because of his shoulder injury, and he's second in our team he's second in our team in tackles this season. So you throw in Ife Melifonwu and CJ Moore in place of him. They were splitting snaps at that strong safety position, and they were coming down to try to help in the run game, and they were just missing tackles. And that's part of the reason. You got to blame the guys up front and the linebackers for not getting that initial stop. But the reason those big chunk 30-plus yards by Chubbert were breaking out and Foreman were breaking out was because our safeties were straight up missing tackles. And that has to do with a lot of Deshaun Elliott being out. I think Jeff Okudah had a bunch of missed tackles too, which usually he's really good in the run game. However, he kind of lives on the ankle biting. Like he just kind of dives at people's ankles all the time. And when it works, it works. And it's worked for most part of the year. I thought he's been really good at that all season long. But it just looks silly today when he's diving at the ground and guys are just running right past him. I think we had a lot of missed tackles, Kirby Joseph included on that, but he's our free safety. I don't think you necessarily are wanting him to have to help in the run game as much if he doesn't have to. It was just an all-around performance. And I think once the Panthers got rolling, we were just kind of panicking and didn't really know what to do or how to react to it. And I think we didn't really step up to that challenge. We kind of got scared of it almost. That's what it felt like watching it.
It was almost reminiscent of the first 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
The panic sets in, but the key thing that you said earlier is Elliott. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of leaders on this team that our defense really thrives on, and Elliott being in the back of the field is kind of directing everybody and keeping everybody in line with all the calls and the checks. And then the center of your defense with Anzalone and Rodriguez. And in the beginning of the year, there's a couple of people that we've spoken to, Chadwick being one of them, former player that mentioned, the panic and the anxiety of getting the calls right, getting your team in line. And in the beginning of the season, they were so worried about everybody else, they couldn't focus on their own position.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that again today. The panic set in, and it was just, Panthers playing with their hair on fire, and the Lions are just cold. And to your point on Okuda, it's a cold game. These guys don't want to hit hard. It stings. You're trying to get the players down as quickly and as efficiently as you can, but that impact, it hurts a hell of a lot more today than it usually does. Sam, do you have anything to piggyback on that, or Darcy?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Lions have an average age of 25. This is an insanely young team. I think the 6th youngest team in the NFL. And it's a lot of rookies and second-year players who need those veterans to direct them, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, where it's like a coordinated dance, right? Everything works as a unit. It doesn't function unless the entire unit is working together. And so missing a veteran like Deshaun Elliott, as much as, one player shouldn't make that much of a difference, makes an insane difference because of the fact that pre-snap he's adjusting everyone, shifting the line, calling coverage packages out, and then he has the ability to read the field and know how plays are being adjusted. So, there was that first touchdown scored by the Panthers. Ifeatu Melifonwu completely ran the wrong way, and this is a speed option to the right side, and Melifonwu just goes left. I was completely confused because the line shifts right, the quarterback goes right, the running back goes right, it all sells right, but pre-snap he must have seen something that thought, misdirection, I'm going left to be the one coverage over there so that we can prevent a touchdown. With a veteran on the field, that doesn't necessarily happen, right? And so these young guys who, most of them aren't, first-round picks who are expected to perform at the highest level with, just themselves out there, we're really looking lost. And I think our youth and, being so young into a rebuild really showed today. We were exploited by a veteran team.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Melifonwu, to your point on him, he's young. He hasn't played a whole lot since he's been with the Lions. So he's been getting plugged in with some injuries, and he's going to have those rookie mistakes, and those happen today. Go ahead, Darcy.
So what I saw as a coach, and I coach offensive defensive lines, it was gap integrity today. You could see a lot of guys with their head down, and they're going with the flow. Like Sam says, they're going to the right, and they're all pulling to the right. And Chuba just cuts it to the left, and man, you could drive a car through that hole. There's nobody there, and the linebackers are filling the B gaps where the play action or the action's going. So it just left everybody, all the running backs, wide open, and he's getting to the third level. You can't win football games, and we've been doing so well out of these last 7 games of shutting down the run. We shut Saquon Barkley down to 22 yards. We shut a whole host of running backs down the last 7 weeks. What happened here, guys? I think, did we really get out-coached is the questions. I got a couple comments here because this is a live interactive show. Keep your head up. Says, keep your head up, fellas. And is it popping up? Sorry.
There you go. I can get it for you, Darcy.
Okay.
So yeah, Facebook user, our defense let us down. Ed Crass said right on Sam. Ed Crass. Another Facebook user said today boiled down to who wanted it more. I'm disappointed in the defense, and our offense was absolutely flat, which, I mean, it's the nail on the head. Another one by Ed is the fumble in the first period changed the entire game. Go ahead. Do you have something, Ben?
Yeah, I won't. Going back to that offense's flat point, I think I want to ask Darcy a question. What has happened to our offensive line in the run game? Because for so long at the beginning of the season, we were dominating our opponents through that. Now for the last few weeks, and it was just more apparent today than ever, we just can't run the ball anymore. I don't know what happened and why this is happening, but if you're, I mean, you mentioned you coach the offense and defensive lines. What do you see going on with this Lions unit that is supposed to be one of the best run blocking units in the league, and now we just can't move?
Well, it's simple. These coaches they have a little bit of film. Chark is back now. We have a whole healthy plethora of game tapes now. You know, we're not just getting a guy back here and we're, faking them out with new plays and everything like that. So it's becoming, like the first 6 games of the year where we're predictable. Don't you find that? Like our best game is when we play off the play action.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a lot of play action going. And when you find yourself 3 scores down, the play action's not really going to work because everybody's just going to sit there by the first down marker and they know you're going to pass. The edge rushers are going to pin their ears back and they're going to come after them. Like we didn't get any sacks. I don't even think we have had any tackles for losses. Could be. I don't think so. Talk about it.
Yeah, so absolutely on that, Darcy. We're getting predictable again, and you kind of seen that today, and it's kind of hard to really call a different game when you're down. You have to call the plays that are going to work, or you think that they're going to work, but you don't know if they're going to work. And when you're down so far, all you can do is chuck the ball up and hope for the best. But on a cold day, you're taking 5 to 7 yards off of every pass play. You're not as confident after 12 to 15 yards. You're reining it back a little bit. And we kind of seen that today. I want to give a little shout out to the Panthers Journal. They sent us a comment that said we crashed y'all out today. Well, hey, great game today, Panthers. We appreciate any and all comments. You guys played a hell of a game.
Yeah.
You deserve the win. You played harder than we did. So thanks for the comment. Really appreciate it. So kind of moving along here with the show. We had a blowout loss today to kind of piggyback off the Panthers Journal, right? Our playoff momentum gets a little stalled out. It was a much needed reality check for this franchise. That was a comment made by Charles McDonald of Yahoo Sports. Sam, what do you have to say to our playoff momentum now? Where are we headed? What happens next week, up against the Bears at home?
It's really tough because Ben and I had just talked a good bit on one of our Wednesday episodes with a weekly update about playoff odds, about how you win this game, you got a 96% chance of making the playoffs. That falls all the way to 52. Our odds now, it's you win out and you're banking on other teams, right? But at the end of the day, most NFL franchises are talking about the 3-year rebuild, right? That's the window that most teams kind of expect to turn it around if they have all the right pieces together. And right now, the Lions are in year 2, right? They're not at the end of that rope. They're not just starting to compete. And so I'd say they're ahead of their rebuild schedule. So as much as it's great that we were in a position to go out and try to fight for a playoff spot and still are, right now, this is the season that we've already set our culture in place. That was last year's problem. Now we're trying to identify the guys who are going to be here long term. I think most of this season we've been able to do that. And now we address the problems in the offseason, we fill those gaps, and really try to make a push next year. It is really tough to look at a season and say, wow, look how much progress we've made, look how the position we're in, but we're just not there yet. But at the end of the day, progress isn't linear, right? So you have to be able to deal with the ups and downs and address those downs so that they don't come back to bite you. And really, it's year 2 of a rebuild. They doubled their win total. They are a competitive team. They've learned how to win on the road, win, great blowout games, win really close games. There's been a lot of progress this year, so it's a nice reality check in the sense that you weren't really expecting to compete fully this season, and maybe we got a little hot-headed because we went on such a streak, but we know kind of our place in the rebuild, and I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Ben, do you have anything to add to that?
I think Sam pretty much hit it right on the top of the nail. Like that was a bunch of good points, but I think there's good news and bad news. If the Niners hold on to this lead and they'd end up winning, we're just as many games back out as we were this morning. Like it's going to be the exact same thing going into next week. However, we need the Commanders to lose and we need the Seahawks to lose. The Seahawks' remaining schedule is the Jets and the Rams. And I don't know if you guys watched that Thursday night game with the Jets. I don't understand how they win another game with Zach Wilson playing as quarterback, at least. That this was kind of the week to jump up in the standings. This was our opportunity to do it, and we didn't come through. It's still possible to be in the playoffs, and if we win out, I think we do have about a 50-50 shot. But yeah, we're banking on these other teams who don't necessarily have the toughest schedules. The Commanders play the Browns and the Cowboys, and they need to lose one of those games. we'll see. It's going to be tough, but like Sam said, there's no reason to not be just as excited for this rebuild as you were 24 hours ago. I think going into next year, I'm just as excited with the progress of this team. Like, we're still 6-2 in the last 8 games. Like, that's a pretty big turnaround from what we were last year in the season. And I said this two weeks ago. I will still say this today after this ugly loss. I still think we're a playoff team heading into next year. And if we can play like we have the last 8 weeks to start the season next year, there you go. I think that's when the rebuild, we really get to see who this team is, because we're that team from week 1. That's what we need to see.
Absolutely. And nobody would have thought that a 1-6 team was going to go, 6-1 at some point during the season. Right. And I guess the most interesting fact of our season this year is, who would have thought that we would have been talking about December football and late in December football and playoffs. So those two things are not in the Lions conversation as a fan. Usually after Thanksgiving, that's about it for us the last 20 years, it seems like. We've had a couple good seasons, 16, I think 14, 11. We had some good seasons, but this feels different. And hopefully it stays in the direction that it's headed. And to Sam's point about being linear, no, we have to measure progress as to how far we're moving the needle. And right now the needle's rising, and it needs to continue to rise. Darcy, what do you have to add to that?
See, I came in the beginning of the season saying, if we get 7 wins, it's a success. And we got 7 wins. We got there. We doubled our win total. Now, we got a little bit greedy because we've been on a pretty good streak. We've been playing solid defense. We've been shutting down the run. But coming into this Green Bay game, I think we could beat those Bears. But how are we going to shut down, Thunder Thighs and Williams? How are we going to shut them down in Lambeau in January?
That's a tough game. That's the toughest game every year. I don't know why we end up playing in Lambeau just about every single year at the last game of the season. It's just punishment to the Lions. There was a couple seasons where it didn't happen. I think we played them about week 12, and was I excited as ever, to not play Lambeau in January.
What do you think's going to happen though if we play? What do you think's going to happen? Do you think the Packers are going to beat us? I probably think so. If we play like that, they're going to kick our ass.
Yeah, if we play anything like that for the rest of the season, like against the Bears too, they're going to kick our butts. Like, we just can't play like that again. That was unacceptable. To your point about the Packers, Aaron Rodgers still terrifies me. I don't really care if he's having a down year or not. He's tormented me for 10 years, and I think I have the right to be terrified of him. Especially, this is what really scares me. If the Packers do pull it out tomorrow against the Dolphins, I don't know who they play.
That changes things. Yeah,
I don't know who they play week 17, but if they win the next 2 and are playing for a playoff spot in week 18 like us, yeah, I'm shaking in my boots. I want no part of that as a Lions fan. I will be terrified to even watch the TV.
I think they have the Vikings after the Lions.
Do they?
Or before the Lions?
Scary, man.
Yep.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if Rodgers can pull something together, that changes everything in a hurry. But I mean, the Packers are not a good team.
No,
they're just not.
That's an opportunity to kind of see, like, hey, are we a new Lions team or not? Is this the same old Lions or not? Is Aaron Rodgers going to kick our butt or not?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Sam.
Yeah. The thing that scares me about the Packers, as much as Aaron Rodgers has haunted every Lions fan's every thought for, as Ben said, the last 10 years, I'm more nervous about the run game right now because, again, it's outdoors and it's in the cold. We came into this game averaging in the past 6 weeks 50 yards against the run. Like, we were only giving up 50 yards. Now, we gave up, 320 yards rushing? Yeah, 320 yards rushing. That's a franchise record for them. That's unbelievable. That's unprecedented. You don't see that every day in the NFL. And the Packers are one of the best teams per DVOA in the rushing game, top 3, I believe. They're averaging 5.5 yards a carry. And if we can't get that initial push from our interior linemen at the line of scrimmage, wrap up arm tackles, stuff like that we were doing so well these past 6 weeks, we have no shot in a cold weather game in Lambeau Field with energy. There's no chance if you get caught up in that situation. They have to adjust going against the Bears.
So if it were me, if I were Dan Campbell, I would say that practice is going to be held outside for probably the last week of the year. They've got to get prepared for Lambeau in a hurry. They just do. The season doesn't stop until we're able to get through Lambeau with a victory. Can't let it stop there. So let's get to our next statement. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, they were saying on the broadcast today, which I didn't know until I heard this, that they only have one more padded practice that they can use this year, just based on the NFL rules. Do you guys think they should use that on the Bears week or the Packers week?
I would say the Packers are 100% outside.
Mm-hmm.
Just me.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But of course, you know what? You got to get through the Bears to even have a chance to play the Packers for anything meaningful. So maybe they use it against the Bears. It's a good point. That's a good point there. So the Lions' embarrassment versus the Panthers today. You guys got me thinking Packers now. It kind of proves our team's real off-season needs. I put a little 3-round mock together. I don't normally do this early or late in the season. For me, I see that, we definitely need a defensive tackle, someone that can eat up the run. I'd like to see that in the first round, first pick. With the running back situation being a little tricky with the Lions right now, Swift's going to be coming up on a contract year after next season. Williams in a contract year. I'd love to see him come back. I just don't see the smaller running backs producing that well in the NFL right now. I'd like to see a bigger, bruising, powerful running back like a Bijan Robinson, like a Henry type. They're not the speediest guys in the world, but they can open their own holes. So round 1, I'd like to see a defensive tackle and a running back. Round 2, I'd like to see a cornerback and a linebacker. We definitely need to stiffen up the middle of that linebacking, that core. And we need someone to help Okudah. Amani has not been it. He's probably done after this season, I would assume. But we need another number 1. Okudah's coming up in a contract year, I think, at the end of 24 as well. So we have to have somebody ready. And we know it takes 2 seasons typically for a cornerback to kind of learn and make their way in the NFL. 3rd round, offensive guard. We've got to strengthen our 5th and 6th options on the offensive guard side. Vaitai, he's got a big contract, for next season. I can't see him coming back, but hey, I'm just an armchair GM here, so we'll see what the Lions brass want to do. What do you guys think about our off-season needs?
Yeah, Ben and I did a lot of talking about mock drafts as of late, especially when the Lions were 1-6, and the entire thought process was, let's look for free agents in the draft. But I kind of agree with you, right? So I definitely have them needing a interior lineman in the top 10. The issue is, can you get Jalen Carter, right? So if the Lions are at 4, especially with the way Jalen Carter's trending, doesn't really look that way. No. Maybe they go for Brian Brisset from Clemson, but if not an interior lineman, there's some good edges. I think pursuing a corner in the first round might be the best opportunity instead of a running back, because I think there's so much running back depth in this draft. I had them taking one in the 3rd, 4th round area. My real concern right now is Okudah is really good vertically, physically, and down the field. But over the middle, against slot receivers, quick guys, he's really struggled and hasn't been the best in zone. So I was looking at maybe in the middle, of the first round with our pick that I think is trending to be 16th or something. Looking at maybe Clark Phillips the 3rd from Utah, because he's he's smaller, but he's real quick and plays real physical. He's kind of honestly a better version of Jerry Jacobs. And that's kind of what I was thinking, right? Because again, there's so much running back depth. I think tight end is also something they might need to pursue later in the draft. Get a guy who can really block, because at the end of the day, they have a good rotation with, Wright, Zylstra, Mitchell, but none of those guys have been really solid in the blocking game. I've seen a lot of missed blocks this year I'm not a fan of. And then linebacker has to be, I think, the 2nd or 3rd round, because they need a coverage linebacker. They need an edge-to-edge, fast linebacker that will allow them to cover the bases, especially with Rodriguez being such a downfield, vertical run stopper.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, yeah, we're kind of right on par. That's rare. What do you think, Ben? What do you got?
Well, I mean, yeah, Sam and I have been talking about this for a little bit, and we tend to agree on most of the same things. I think Jalen Carter's obviously the number 1 goal. And if the Broncos pull one out tomorrow against the Rams, it's not impossible to end up getting that 3rd pick and possibly taking Jalen Carter if the Bears pass on him. Besides that, Will Anderson at that top spot, another edge rusher. I think it's important to help Hutchinson out because it's not okay that we're just allowing him to get double teamed every single play. We need to be able to unlock him in a really special way, because I do think he's a special player, but there's not a whole lot you can do when you're getting double teamed every play. So it's the most important position on defense right now in the NFL is the edge rush. So being able to apply pressure to the quarterback has to be our number one priority. It's inconsistent right now. We see it a lot, but we also have games like today. We don't see it at all. So a little bit more consistency there, I think, would be really useful. And the thing is, if we get a star like Will Anderson and Jalen Carter to do that, our depth all of a sudden becomes really, really valuable with guys like Pascal. Like with guys like Pascal and James Houston rotating in. That's when it's like, okay, we have probably one of the, if Carter, Anderson, and Hutchinson all pan out, then we then all of a sudden we're looking around like we have one of the better pass rushes in the entire NFL. So that's where I think the first pick priority should be, that Rams pick. That second pick, just depending on who falls there, I think it's either a corner or a linebacker for the same exact reason Sam said. We need a faster guy who can cover more of those shorter interior routes and the ones over the middle of the field, the crossing routes, because we saw Garrett Wilson just absolutely torch Jeff Okudah. That's not his strength. It's going up against big physical guys who play down the field. So someone to counter with him would be very nice. I like Will Anderson, but I like him a lot more as like a rotation guy, not necessarily our cornerback too. And yeah, like Sam said, we need another coverage linebacker, someone who can, play zones, help us out. Like we don't really play zone at all. So having the ability to do that, have someone to play over the middle, that would be really helpful for us.
Absolutely. And a great review. Darcy, what do you have to add to our offseason needs?
We have a lot of money in free agency. I'm not a big college guy. I work on every Saturday, so you guys are more of the experts on that. But we are the the youngest team in the NFL. So what did Sam say? Our average age is 25. So I think we have like $40 million to spend on free agency. So let's probably bring in a top tier linebacker. Let's do that.
Absolutely.
Let's spend some money on that, or I don't know if we could get. I don't think there's any top free agent edge rushers, but maybe grab a corner, and then, like I said, or Sam said, it takes 2 years or a year and a half to develop a corner, anyways.
Yeah, we had a great conversation with Glover Quinn a couple weeks ago where we talked about the cornerback position or the D-back position, and he echoes the same sentiment that every coach in the NFL and at every rank says, you can never have enough. Whether they grab them in free agency or they take care of it in the draft, the Lions are definitely going to have to beef up their backfield. Will Harris and Hughes, they've been playing out of position. And I want to say Glover, made that comment too, that they earned their bread in the slot. They're not traditional outside guys. They're not a true number two to Okudah. And we really need someone with some length and some speed to back him up. When Okudah goes down, if he ever goes down again, which we hope he doesn't, we need someone to step in to take that number one role. Absolutely. Trenton Simpson is the guy that I have pegged for the linebacker. I really like him. He's a big physical guy. He can man the run and he can stick with you like glue too. I don't know where he's going to end up in the draft, but I definitely think he's a first round talent. I don't know if that's anybody you've been looking at, Sam, but Trenton Simpson's definitely on my radar.
Yeah, I love Trenton Simpson. I mean, first of all, he's really young. I like young prospects. Also, he's a linebacker who runs a 4.40. That's
blazing fast.
Yeah, that's rare. And he's got length. He's got a wide wingspan. And so he's a guy that you can definitely stick in zone. In fact, he thrives in coverage. But he made Bruce Feldman's freak list, and I love guys who make that list because it's like guys who have the unbelievable physical builds, but he's also a really high IQ player. He played at Clemson, obviously, so he played at the highest level of college football, but he's got hit power, he's got speed. I mean, he's a guy that can play the run because he plows into piles and uses his entire frame, but he's great in coverage. I love Trent Simpson. Are we in a position to get him, right? Like, the Lions are in such an awkward phase of this draft where they've got a high pick, but like, do you reach? And then they also got like that pick where you might have to trade up to go get the real guy you want, and do you really want to risk depth for that? So it's just such a interesting phase of where their draft is positionally.
I'd say with those Hawkinson picks that we brought in, why not use one of them? Either I think you should use one on a tight end, or you should, hey, go up. If you have a guy like last year, Jameson Williams, that you really like, use one of those to trade up and take one of those special guys. Why not?
Absolutely. You know, there's a few special guys in every draft, whether you hit on one or not. That's the biggest question, right? And Holmes, he's hit on these guys that aren't special, and they're becoming special. So I think that our trust in Holmes, we've never had a GM like him that is his hit on the picks that he's hit on, and has made some amazing trades so far, pulled off some things that have really helped this rebuild become a build. You know, we tore it down, now we're building, and we're entering that third phase where we're going to take some leaps and bounds. So there's a comment in here by Mark. It says, isn't Trent like 220 pounds, which makes him a tweener? I think, and I don't know what he's going to weigh at the combine, right? But he was more like 240, 235, 245, somewhere in that area. He's a pretty good sized guy. Another comment by Brent DeWitt. I agree with the rebuild's progress. Worried more now about playing at Green Bay after watching that debacle. Like to see us draft a defensive lineman, a cornerback, a linebacker, a DB, an offensive guard for depth. CBs, Porter Jr. or Devin Witherspoon later. Great insight, Brent. Thank you for the comment.
I've heard that a lot.
So we're at a pinnacle now. The Lions are moving into a direction which we haven't seen before. We're winning games that we shouldn't have won. We've lost games that we should have won. The offense totally turned it around on a dime, you know, averaging, well, before today's game, about 7 more points per game this season than we were last season. That's how you measure that progress, right? The needle's moving up on the offense. The defense has been our Achilles heel all season. We've had some flashes of greatness, and we've had some flashes of laying a big nugget of coal on the Panthers field today. And we can't allow that to happen anymore. So hopefully, you know, between tonight and the way home, the Lions are really putting it together to think of a good game plan for the Bears next week. They take the day off tomorrow. They collect themselves. They actually have an extra day off this week, right? So tomorrow's Sunday. It's not Monday.
Yeah, it's a short week for sure. You can tell.
Yeah.
Plus, they flew out a day earlier too, so they only had 2 practices.
You know, really, it blows my mind that, you know, Campbell said that we were unprepared. I didn't see his presser after the game. I was already prepping for Christmas dinner, so I didn't see his presser. But Sam, could you enlighten us a little bit more of what he really had said as to why they weren't prepared? Was Campbell owning that up, or did something happen?
I think Campbell is always going to put it on himself first, right? He's shown that time and again. He's always, it's on me, man. It's on me. But he showed up, and first of all, he looked deflated, which, I mean, how would you not be after a loss like that? But he said that the team wasn't emotionally prepared, physically prepared, and mentally prepared. So I think, you know, that's 3 stages of football, right? Emotionally, where are you? Are you fully invested in this game? Are you overlooking your opponent? Are you, paying, you know, sometimes too close attention? Like Mark Schmidt always says, when the Lions were trying too hard to win, focusing on all the little things caught them in a bad spot. And physically, they came out flat, right? They didn't bring the energy. They didn't want to tackle. They didn't, you know, want to set the edge and get physical. And mentally they looked lost. I mean, weren't reading the line right, defensively out of position, miscommunication, stuff like that. And I think, you know, that's a lack of preparedness, and he's putting that, I think, on him, right? So in practice, what are they doing to allow those mistakes to occur? Are they being a little too light? Are they are they not going too in depth? You know, sometimes in football, you let things slide because of momentum, and that's why it was a trap game. That's why, you know, I had that feeling. And at the end of the day, I think that's that lack of preparedness that he's talking about.
Well, hey, we're going to take a quick 1-minute break. We'll be back in like 60 seconds, and then we'll wrap up the show for the next 20 minutes or so. So everybody just hold on.
What will Ben Johnson dial up to try to keep this drive going and kill this clock, win this game, and get out of here? Panay Sewell is reported as eligible, so they have 6 offensive linemen in the game. Goff to throw. Wants to throw it to Sewell. He caught it. Panay Sewell Johnson, you are my hero. Yes.
All right, and we're back, guys. Looks like we lost Ben for the time being, but that's okay. Maybe he'll be back with us shortly. So we've got the Bears coming up. Everybody can hear me okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're all good.
All right, so we've got the Bears coming up, and we're looking to contain Justin Fields hopefully this time. Last game, he went off for about 167 yards on the ground. He was able to beat our edge all day long. We were not able to get the pressure that we've been getting the last several weeks. How is this game going to be different for us now that we're looking into a game that is so pivotal for this Lions team? It's a make or break game for us. What are we going to do differently? Are we going to be mentally prepared? Sam, what do you think?
Honestly, I think they're going to come out with a different energy. Dan Campbell has shown time and again that he will not let games like this slide. He will never let a performance like this slide. It's not, he is the definition of a football guy. And when you care so much about the game and it's such a physical game, when another team runs through you, throws you around, tears you to shreds, it's deflating, dehumanizing. A coach like Dan Campbell does not let that happen again. I think he's going to whip his players into shape, make sure that they come out strong, heavy, hit hard, set the tone for the next game. It's at Ford Field. It's in our house. We beat the Bears before. We can do it again. I think that's going to be his message. And I think with the way the Lions have played this season, especially the second half of the year, they've shown the ability to win. It's about getting into that mental state to consistently perform, right? This has never been a culture of winners. I mean, for the last 20 years, it's kind of been a culture of losing. And a lot of these guys, even the veterans, have to get into a mental state of, okay, we are the favorites here. We can win this game. We're not the underdogs each week. It's our house. Let's go win this game. Instead of, playing meek and, weak. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Dan always rises up to the occasion. He gives us some amazing quality sound bites, but he also gives us an impression of a leader that has been missing from this Lions organization for a long time. He does take ownership. He does give us some coach speak sometimes, but I'd say, if there was a meter for coach speak, Belichick is 90, where it's all coach speak. 90-10, he gives you realness, right? And Campbell's the other way. He's giving you 90 of real talk, and he's giving you 10 of, I have to say this because I have to. I'm the coach. Darcy, what do you have for us for the Bears game?
I'm going to tell you right now, myself, Mark Schmidt, his family, my wife are going to be down there. And when I go, we never lose. We never lose. I tell you, because I'm the freaking loudest mofo you ever heard. I'm pounding. I'm doing the Will Rock. It's Detroit Lions. This team is different away than they are at home. They play a hell of a lot better at home. All we have to do is play a wide 9 technique against Justin Fields, keep everything in front of us, like the defense, keep all eyes on Justin Fields, even though I seen a nice pass he made today, but that was only one. It's going to be loud. It's going to be raucous. Everybody paid over $300 for their seats. I can't believe how much the tickets are. Thank you, Will, for pulling your clout for getting us former Lion and his family that's probably never seen a Lions game tickets for this. We're going to smoke them. It's probably going to be like, let's say 37-23, whatever the score was today.
Big score. So we got a little scoring update. Commanders are getting killed 37-20. They're entering the last minute and 36 seconds in the fourth quarter. So today was a wash. We can all take a breath of fresh air that we're still in this thing. We still have a chance. For me on the Bears, what I see is Fields can't get loose like he did last time. The Lions have faced some teams this year, the Eagles being the first one, where we've allowed some running attacks, whether it was the quarterback or the running back or a combination of both, just get the best of us. The Eagles trounced all over us. Now the Panthers have shown us another way, right? And Fields is trounced all over us as well. We have to learn from our mistakes. Glenn made some changes in the second half. I'm sure Campbell was right with him making those changes and making sure that the things that he's seeing are being communicated and back and forth, and they're making the right change to allow us to be in the right position at the right time to make the right play. And for the Lions to take on the Bears at home, they're going to have the crowd behind them, 110%. It's going to be loud. It's going to be rocking, like Darcy said. But more importantly, they're going to be ready. They're going to walk into this week, their heads hung a little bit low, but I think they're going to come out of it ready to fight. And they're ready to fight for their fans in the city of Detroit like they always have. Taylor Deckers has come out a few times over the last few weeks saying how this isn't the same old Lions. Well, damn it. Now it's the time to prove it. Okay. Decker's a leader on this team. It's time to prove it. It's time to own up to your statements and show us what you're made of. So I've got the Lions coming in with a win next week, and it's going to be some fun in the tundra for week 18. It's flying in. Brent DeWitt again says, I agree. MCDC will have these guys ready to kick butt against the Bears. Glad to hear you'll be there for our good luck charm, Coach D. Hope we can fold Fields to under 50 yards rushing. And that's the key, Brent. Right there, that's the key. We have to limit Fields to under 50 yards. He can pass all day. We can play the same role we did with the Vikings. Let somebody get loose, but we need to shut down the rest of them collectively. That's the ticket. We've got another one here from Mark Malik. Lack of talent on defense is a huge problem. There will be a lot of resources put into talent on this defense in the offseason. Couldn't agree more, Mark. We're coming to a point in Detroit Lions history now where we finally have some money. We don't have all these dead cap issues. We don't have this Quinn Tricia era where we've got a lot of bad contracts, come and due. They're due. They're done. We're finally walking in with some money next year. So hopefully in the offseason we can attract some players that want to come to Detroit and play for Detroit Lions and kind of get us over the edge. What do you got, Sam?
Yeah, no, it's the biggest thing is you got to attract free agents who want to play here. The episode where Glover was on, he talked about that a lot, right? It takes a specific player and a very specific pitch to get a guy to want to come to Detroit, because it's not just, the whole Detroit stigma that we have here, but it's the history of the franchise. There have been players drafted here like Ndamukong Suh who just did not want to be here, made it very vocal, right? We need to find guys who are willing to come in and play those roles of veterans and mentors to some of these younger players, and also find guys who, are willing to take maybe shorter term deals, right? Because we're not necessarily trying to sign 30-year-olds to massive deals like the Quinn Tricia era did, like the Jamie Collins deal and the Trey Flowers deal. We're still paying them off. And those are the type of things that we can't have happen in this new regime, and I don't think they will. But again, it's finding those veterans who are willing to be mentors and not, be the stars of the show, because we're looking to bring in our own guys for that, not necessarily veterans who have been in the league for those roles.
Absolutely. And you made a good point there too, is, this team is different because we're not a team of solos. We don't have a bunch of independents running around the field looking for stats. They're not looking for glory. All the glory comes when together as a team and as a unit, they're able to celebrate together what they've accomplished, right? And that's the one thing that I really appreciate the most that Holmes and Campbell have brought to this team was be humble, right? Humble yourself enough, go out and have a great game, enjoy it with your guys, but continue with your head down and continue building forward, because all the accolades that you want, the Pro Bowls, the All-American, everything that you want later will come. And it'll come by working hard. And if you're going to be a gritty Detroit Lion, you're going to get there and just put your head down and play. So that's a great point, Sam, that our team needs to be a collective unit. They really do. And getting the veterans on this team, the 4 or 5 year guys that have been in the league that are coming due for their second contract, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for some experience, and we're looking for some players that can lend and bend an ear on how to be better, how to be a pro. how to manage this league a little bit better and get better at your position. What do you got, Darcy?
I think we should wrap it up here real quick, but a programming note, Glover Quinn is going to come on again. So make sure you subscribe. And the first, we're going to have a little contest. We're going to bring the listeners, we're going to do something real special for Glover. If you want to talk to him and have a question, talk to me. Give me ideas. And then we could bring you on the show for like 10 seconds. You ask a question, and then another fan could ask a question. But you have to subscribe. If you subscribe, share to your page, even Forward Down the Field or Will Rock's new podcast. Subscribe. We'll bring everybody in. You ask a question. You can talk to Glover Quinn, Mark Schmidt. I hope Stefan Logan too. But did I answer your question? Is that the question? No, it was not. What was the question?
Oh, no, we were just talking about, bringing in some veteran players and how the Lions are developing into a core unit of a unit instead of solo players. And, so in free agency, we're looking for that second contract person to come in and like be a leader on this team. Exactly what Glover Quinn was echoing to us in during the show. But I think that's it for us today, guys, unless you have anything else you want to add, Sam. It's kind of a deflating day. Not a whole lot to talk about. Wins are different, but losses mean something too. This is going to kick the Lions, into gear, and we're going to come back strong for next week.
The only thing I have to say is, all of us scouts in Canada, we talk to each other, and I met Chuba when he was 15, and he was already running 10, I think 25. He wasn't under the 10 mark yet. He was a track kid, and I talked to him early when he was 15, 16. He was already running that. So it was really nice to see one of my kids make it to the NFL. I messaged Chris Spielman. I said, "Do you need to draft this kid?" And I gave him all the tapes and everything like that. I never responded, but in the 4th round, they never did draft him. Damn, was I right? Should have drafted Chuba. Cold weather kid. That's what you need in the NFC North. But you guys got anything to finish it off? Otherwise, I'll just hit the promo video.
Go ahead, Sam. Give us your plug one more time.
Yeah, go follow at Sam_Goodman18 on Twitter, at FDF Podcast, and go listen to the show on any streaming service, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, mainly the Forward Down the Field podcast. Go follow my co-host Ben. He had to run out early because it is the holidays, but at Bosher Ben for him.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Please, smash that bell and find us on YouTube at Detroit Lions new show and on Facebook, and give us a like. And we're doing some gift grab bags here for the final 2 shows. The more likes and subscribes we get, the more entries you get. Please share it with your friends. And that's all we have for tonight.
And here we are with the Detroit Lions news, and we have our co-host. It's just myself, Darcy Maville, the real deal Maville.
He keeps playing like that and forcing all these turnovers. I think he could maybe get his name in the conversation for defensive rookie of the year. I don't think that's crazy to say.
Joseph's really been great. 10 tackles, 2 interceptions.
At the end of the day, they escaped with a win, and you got to be happy about that.
Detroit Lions, the victory yesterday over Chicago.
You got to minimize the big plays, and I think we did that today.